and welcome to a module on fair use doctrine. This is part of a MOOC on media law and ethics. You are all welcome to attend this particular lecture on fair use doctrine. There are two conflicts here. One is copyright and the other one is commons. Copyright says that we have to protect the interest of everyone and particularly the creators, which will create good number of good culture, and that will help them to have the material benefit and all credits, everything. If you look at the commons, that wants every cultural product to be dedicated to the nation, to the larger good of the public. So, how to balance this? Here comes the policy called fair use doctrine. If you look at the copyright law, the copyright protection gives creative works to foster creation of culture. It protects the owner's rights. It always protects the interest and all benefits of the owner who has the right over the content. And he can do copy, he can quote, he can reuse, and he can do whatever he wants with regard to the content he created for the generation of new culture. And cultural value of copying is well established. It is written into the social bargain in the heart of copyright law. Into the copyright law, if you see that there is a bargain between what I said earlier, between the copyright and between the commons, and the intermediate solution is called fair use doctrine. So, the society gives limited rights to creators to encourage them to produce culture. On the one hand, we give the creators to produce the culture. On the other hand, we want the created product to be made use of by everyone. So, without this arrangement, we cannot have everything to everyone. So, this arrangement is required to advance the use of content with the balance of creators as well as the larger public good. And with this intention, so balancing between the interest of the creators and the interest of the common man, and this arrangement has been made and this has been stipulated by the Copyright Act. If you look at everywhere, be it US or UK or any Copyright Act that is available in any country, you can see a clause called fair doctrine use or fair doctrine policy. There is something which is meant for making use of the content by a common man with a certain limited level. This is to enable the reproduction of the work for public cause and for encouragement at private study, research and promotion of knowledge. So, for the promotion of knowledge, research and for the private study, we need to have some facility so that can be consumed by a larger community. The list of acts which do not constitute infringement has been provided under Article 52 of Copyright Act 1972. So, the Copyright Act section 52 talks about what can be done with the fair use in the country. A fair dealing with literary, musical or artistic work not being a computer program for the purpose of private or personal use, including research. So, it talks everything about the creative work, but the computer programming is not a part of this arrangement, because that involves the intellectual property of a larger level. So, criticism or review whether of that work of any other work, reporting of current events and current affairs, including the reporting of a lecture delivered in public, these are all the major work which can come under the exception under this article, this section called 52. Copyright proponents argue that copyright is not a patent, is not an absolute right and should therefore be balanced against user rights. So, the fair dealing doctrine, if you see the social bargain of the copyright law, the core principle in the copyright law in a social democratic republic like India, we see that this bargain helps both the people, both the creators as well as the people who use the content. So, this is a social bargain being provided by the state through the form of copyright law in the particular section called 52. And members of WTO are obligated to conform with the essential factors of exceptions to copyright as provided by the Berne Convention and Article 13 of TRIPS agreement, which lay down a 3-step test, and 3-step test is very popular to find out whether a copyright is to be admitted for a fair use thing or not. So, this 3-step test has been introduced by WTO through the Berne Convention. Number 1, whether the exception must be special. Number 2, whether it must not conflict with the normal exploitation. Number 3, it must not unreasonably prejudice the legitimate interest of the rights holders. So, with these 3 exceptions, one can find out whether the content can be exempted from using the copyright infringement procedures. The fair use doctrine permits limited use of copyright material without having to get permission from the copyright holder. So, the fair use doctrine that has been evolved by many countries on many grounds, and this doctrine permits limited use of copyright material. You can go for about 15 seconds in one video, or about few seconds of music, or you can use photograph for certain purposes. So, these kind of permitting the fair use of the content is being permitted by different countries. Copyright has significantly contributed to the evolution of the anti-commons. When multiple owners have the right to exclude others from taking advantage of a scarce resource and no one has an enforceable privilege of use, the resource might be underutilized. When you do not have when the thing is being used by multiple users and it is a scarce material, and if you have control over that, then there is a possibility that cannot be used by the multiple users or many users simultaneously. So, copyright industries are, if you want to define what is copyright industries specifically, copyrighted content is there is something called copyrighted industry. So, the copyright industries are defined as those industries whose primary source of revenue are the reproduction, distribution, publication and sale of copyrighted materials, including film, audio and text. So, the agencies that are involved in these kind of production distribution are called copyright industries. Due to these challenges, it was felt that the copyright policy needs to be balanced against providing access to information goods. From a public policy perspective, it is significant to avoid this anti-commons effect and maintain a balance in the copyright. So, if you want to provide the larger access to public information, then you have to have a balance between these two things. Therefore, limitations and exceptions to exclusive copyright have been an essential part of the doctrine. So, there we need to have limitations as well as exceptions, so that you can have the exclusive copyrights have been essential part of the doctrine. So, the doctrine can be useful for both the parties. These exceptions protect users from infringement liability and promote public welfare by facilitating access to information goods. The most significant set of these exceptions is known as fair use. The fair use doctrine has general exceptions and limitations in the form of copyright law. The copyright law has a doctrine essentially which has an exemption in the use of the policy in the name of fair use doctrine, and it has a simple test to find out whether the purpose of this particular usage is beneficial to the larger public, or what kind of impact it will have on the market and what kind of impact it will have on the material benefit of the creator. So, these are the tests with which the world has been trying to understand or trying to find out whether a product or a output that can be tested in the light of this particular doctrine. So, this fair use doctrine helps us to have a balance between the industry by creating a copyright good and the larger interest of the public.